Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our community chat. Tonight we'll be talking with a very special lady, a very special guest of mine. She is a CPA, and we'll talk about exactly what that is. And tonight's topic is how do we manage our finances, keeping the holiday in mind? Let's welcome Annette to our chat. Good evening, Annette.
Good evening, Everton. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Well, it's a pleasure having you with me tonight. And as we talk, I'm going to try to get as much information from you as I possibly can. Is that okay?
That sounds great.
All right. Let's first of all start with you. Who are you? What's your claim to fame?
All right. Well, my name is Annette. I represent the island of Barbados, one of the small islands in the Caribbean, but one of the premier small islands. And I am a CPA, certified public accountant, and I work primarily with small businesses. And in that capacity, I help them to create strategies that increases the profits in their business. And I also work to help them to simplify their financials so that they understand what's going on in their financials. I am also a certified financial coach. And as a certified financial coach, I help individuals with financial management. So if there is debt that they need to reduce, or if there's a goal that they're saving towards, I'm able to help them to make the decisions to be able to achieve the goals that they're looking for.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. Let's start off with you being a person from the Bahamas or Barbados? Which is it?
Barbados. I am a
Barbados? You sure it's not Jamaica?
I am positive it's not Jamaica.
But all the Caribbean people are Jamaicans when they come to the US, isn't it?
Yes, I am married to a Jamaican, but I represent proudly the island of Barbados.
Well, we're proud of you just the same.
Appreciate that. We appreciate that. Sister islands.
Thank you, Annette, for being here. You said you were a CPA and you have been involved with accounting for how long?
From the time I graduated college. So I have been a certified public accountant for well over 25 years.
Wow, 25 years.
Yeah.
So you are well experienced in this thing.
Yes, and every year there's always something new to learn. So it's an evolving process. I'm constantly learning. That's one
Okay.
thing that intrigues me. I'm constantly learning so that I can help the people that I serve better.
Wow. So you are not afraid to make the tough decisions, are you?
Well, in my role, I don't make the tough decisions. What I do is I empower the business owner so that they can make the tough decisions that they need to for their business. So I give them the information and I equip them so that they can make the tough decisions for their business.
Well, listeners, we have a lady here who is willing to give you some really valuable tips. And I hope that you will make the tough decisions that she will be recommending this evening to you. Let's talk about the first of the holiday season. We have Thanksgiving coming up, and usually that's involved turkey, stuffing, pies, lots of food.
All the
How
trimmings,
do
yes.
how do you navigate that financially in your family?
Well, in our family, what we do is we share the load. And so, therefore, what we do is we have everybody participate. So, all the kids, everybody that's coming, they all bring a dish. And so that helps to share the load, not just financially, but it also helps to share the load as far as one person is not in the kitchen for the entire day.
Do you do that for Christmas as well?
We do. Whenever we get together, we share the load as much as we can.
Okay, so guys, the first lesson then is to share the load, because when you try to do it by yourself, not only is it costly,
Yes,
it's work and labor intensive, right?
yes, it's overwhelming.
Do you do the same house every time, or do you shift to different houses for your different holidays?
We shift houses. We shift houses. Yes.
Okay, that's a good idea. Now, you did say that you were a financial coach. What's involved in that?
So, as a financial coach, it's different than a financial planner. So, I don't manage people's money, but as a financial coach, I just help people with their financial management. So, if they are in debt or if they have a savings goal that they're trying to achieve, one of the primary objectives that I try to achieve with the businesses that I help is to reach something that we call financial independence. So, I want them to be able to get to a space where they don't work because they have to, but they work because they want to. And so
Mhm.
that's all part of the process is creating strategies that help people to be able to reach a stage where money's coming in, whether they decide to get up out their bed that day or not. So
Okay. Well, we're going to try to get there, listeners, so you can have your money work for you
that's,
rather than you work for your money, right?
yes, for sure.
Okay.
That is the goal.
One of the problems we have had is that when we come to US, a lot of us have never seen a credit card or know what a credit card is all about.
Mhm.
Now, how do you advise people, especially in this holiday season, how to deal with credit cards?
Yes. Well, one of the things that you want to do is you want to avoid the credit card during the holidays. The credit card, unless you are disciplined enough to pay off your credit cards at the end of the month, then that's something that you want to avoid because all you're doing is you're taking that debt and you're transferring it into the new year. And so I think for a lot of people, they get caught up in a lot of impulse buying, a lot of, overspending, last minute shopping. And the best way to navigate through the holidays is to actually create a budget before you even start. And we can talk about what that looks like a little bit later, but you generally want to just create a budget. And if you can, use cash or buy some prepaid debit cards and use those when you go shopping. If you can avoid the credit cards, then that puts you in a good position to not start the new year with debt.
But the Black Friday sales are fantastic and they're very catchy.
Yes,
And it makes you feel that you have to get these things because that's the best price you'll ever see them at. How
yes.
do you navigate that?
Well, that's all part of your budget. So, in an ideal world, the best time to really start planning for Christmas is in January. If you can create your budget in January and start a savings plan where you put a little bit aside every month, by the time that you roll around to November, December, you've got an adequate budget that you've put away. You've got the funds to shop for the holidays. And sometimes when people create a budget, they think about just gifts, but there's a lot of other things that go into the holidays. Like you just mentioned, there's the holiday meals. Sometimes there's travel going from one house to another. There's the decorations. All that you've got to encompass in your budget. So if you create a budget, you have these things in place and you're ready. When the time comes, you're ready to take advantage of the Black Friday sales because you've got the money, you know what you need, and you go out and you shop and you've got an agenda when you shop. You're not just kind of haphazardly shopping.
So you should not then go shopping without a list. Is that what you're saying?
You should know what you need before you head out the door. Yes.
I love to go shopping with my credit card and look for the best deal I can find, but that's a form of a bankruptcy, isn't it?
Well, not if you're disciplined. Now, there are some advantages to using your credit card. Sometimes people use their credit card because they're going to get points. Sometimes
Mhm,
people are going to use their credit card because it has, cashback rewards. And
mhm.
so you can take advantage of those, but you have to be disciplined enough to pay that credit card off at the end of the month. Because if it rolls over into the next month and you're paying the interest, whatever advantages you gain from the points or the cashback rewards, it's lost by paying the interest because the interest on the credit cards is really high. And so that's what you want to avoid. So use the credit cards, but don't let the credit cards use you.
Okay, since we're on credit, just want to mention something about your credit score as well. Because your credit cards are good for your credit score, but they're also bad for your credit score, isn't it?
Well, again, it depends on how well you pay off those credit cards. And there's a lot of components that go into making up your credit score. Sometimes it's good to have a long history with a credit card. Sometimes people think, oh, I haven't used this credit card in a while. I'm going to get rid of it. Actually, keep that older credit card, even if you're not using it, because part of how long you've had that credit card becomes part of your credit history. That makes up your credit score. How frequently or how well you pay off those balances becomes another part of your credit score. So there's a lot of components. So if you can learn how to use the credit cards wisely, and the biggest component is not carrying balances on them, then the credit cards will work in your favor. The
So
problem is
when
that for a lot of people is they don't know how to use them wisely. They run the debt up, and then that debt follows them into the next month and then the next month after that. And pretty soon they've paid for that item 2 or 3 times over.
if I have a credit limit of $1,000 and I go and spend the $1,000, and at the end of the month when the bill comes, it says uh, $200 is due, and I just pay that $200, I'm not doing a bad thing, am I?
Yes, you are, because you're just
Really?
paying the minimum. You're just paying the minimum balance. If you're going to use a credit card wisely, but never use a credit card for something that you can't afford. And I think that's where people kind of get into trouble. They use the credit card because they couldn't afford it in the first place. If you've put $1,000 on the credit card, make sure at the end of the month you've got the funds to pay off that $1,000. So then you not only get the benefit of, time management of using your money wisely, but you also get the benefit of if there's points on that credit card, if there's cashback rewards, you take advantage rather than the credit card taking advantage of you.
So do not use the credit card as a loan.
No, do not use the credit card as a loan. And especially as a long-term loan, because I think most people don't even look to see what the interest rates are on their credit cards. And if you go to a bank and get a credit card, the interest rate on that credit card is probably high 20s, maybe 30s. But if you go to that
Yes.
same bank and you put your money in there and ask them to give you an interest on your savings, they're paying you less than 1%.
So, again, guys, do not use your credit card as a loan. When you put a balance in your credit card, pay it off as
Yeah.
soon as you can, probably in the same month, right?
Yes, yes. That's the best alternative is to pay it off when it's due, pay that entire balance off. Do not roll it into the next month. And
Okay.
you can navigate the holidays if you plan. They say planning is the key to success. So a
Mhm.
lot of times the holidays take people by surprise. We all know it's coming. So the key is to not let it take you by surprise. Plan for it. Like I said, ideally start in January. If you put a little bit aside, you know how much you spend at Christmas and you distribute that over, 10 months of the year rather than trying to budget in October to spend in November and December, you'll be in a lot better position.
What about uh, planning to spend based on anticipated funds to come in?
Well, it depends on how sure those anticipated funds are. I mean, sometimes people know they're going to get a bonus at work, or sometimes people know that there's, gift money that's coming in, or, maybe they've, put it away in some kind of a Christmas fund or something like that. And they know that it's coming back at a certain time of the year. If you're guaranteed that that money's coming in, then, that's part of your budget. As you're projecting your income, that's part of your budget. A lot of times, though, people are not doing that. They're basing it off hope, hope that the money comes in. And hope is not a strategy.
Okay, so again, your financial advisor is telling you here, do not spend based on money you hope to get, only on the money that you are sure that is coming in. But SHIT happens. When the money was supposed to come, it
Yeah.
didn't come. You
Yeah.
know, things happen and then you're going to have to deal with it.
Right, which is also another strategy that's important to cultivate throughout the year is every person should at least have $1,000 of emergency funds. So there are things that happen. Your car breaks down, emergency trip, you need to go somewhere. Everybody should have at a very minimum $1,000 that they've got set aside emergency fund. So this is not your Christmas budget. This is just part of your regular, normal everyday strategy. You should start with $1,000 emergency fund. That's just
Should you
start.
have that? Should you have that in cash or in a bank account or something?
Yeah, so you want to put this aside in an account. It can be a savings account. It can be, and there's some other avenues that we can talk about. Remember, I said this is just the start. This is not the entire emergency fund. So I'm,
Mhm,
suggesting to people that this is where they start. So whether that's like you suggest two prepaid $500 cards that they have that they can use if they need, that's a great idea. If you have it in a savings account, that's a separate account.
mhm.
You can have that, set aside. If you're disciplined to know I've got savings, but I know that it cannot go below $1,000 because that's my emergency savings, you can start there. So that's the first step that you're going to do. But ultimately, you want to work up to having 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. So people should have an idea what their expenses are, and you want emergency savings that are equivalent to at least 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. Because why do you need this? Just in case something happens, you have to step away from your job, or you unfortunately lose your job, or you're in a space where you cannot work for a little bit, or pandemic happens, like you said, stuff happens. You have a good cushion for 3 to 6 months that can get you through without having to resort to the credit cards, or going into financial detriment. That gives you a cushion to help you through a rough spot.
Okay. What about taking loans for this season?
Taking a loan for the holidays,
Yes.
I would not recommend that. Again, if you planned appropriately at the beginning of the year, then I think that you would have set aside, so you're proactively planning for your Christmas shopping, rather than reactively, right? So now you're not just thinking, oh, we've got to buy gifts, and so I've got to put it on credit card. I've got to go out and get a loan. I would not recommend that, because all you're doing is you're taking this year's debt and you're carrying it into a new year. And so you want to start the year on a solid financial footing. So that's why you don't want to have the credit card debt. You don't want to have that loan debt. You want to be able to enjoy the holidays, be with your family. At the end of the day, it's not about the money you spent, it's about the experiences that you have. So, mhm,
But Anne, um, I didn't start in January. I didn't plan anything in January.
yes,
But here I am in November.
yes,
Tomorrow is Thanksgiving,
yes,
and I want to enjoy it. But all I have is this credit card and my wallet.
yes. So
What do I do?
you spend according to your means. And so, like I said, if you use that credit card, but you know that you'll be able to pay it off at the end of the month. I know that my, paycheck is coming in, around the 25th of the month, or at the end of the month, the 30th of the month, and I will be able to pay it off. But in order to do that, you have to have a good understanding of your expenses. So you can't neglect your regular expenses during the holidays, right? The light bill still got to be paid, rent still got to be paid, mortgage still got to be paid. So you've got to make sure that you have cushion in your budget for the holiday spending. And if you don't, then putting it on the credit card does not get you into any better position except to add to your debt for the next year. So come
So
January,
are you
yeah.
recommending then that people use their debit cards in this season rather than their credit cards?
What I'm recommending is that they sit down before they go out shopping and they create a budget. So they see
Uh-huh.
what space they have in their budget for holiday shopping. So you know what your monthly bills are going to be. So make sure that those are covered. If you have not planned, throughout the year, then you look to your savings. Do you have savings that you can dedicate a portion of that to holiday shopping? Is there wiggle room in your current, monthly income that's coming in that will allow you to dedicate some of it to shopping? And sometimes at the end of the day, it just isn't. And I think that's the position that people find themselves in. And so they resort to credit cards. But it's not a solution, because all that happens is the next month, come January, you have all the regular bills, and now you have the credit card bills on top of it. So you go into the year frustrated, overwhelmed, and it doesn't have to be, because half the time the things that you bought, really at the end of the day, when you look back, did you really need them? Not really.
Okay, what about it is said that a brother is for all difficult times. What if I go and borrow some money from my friend or my brother or my sister? Isn't that escape route.
Well, a loan is a loan is a loan. If you have to pay it back, it doesn't matter, where you get it from. Now, if you have a kind-hearted brother who's going to gift you some money for the holidays, then go for it. That's your money to spend, right? And if you have the relationship where you call it a loan with your brother, but you're not going to pay it back, then go for it. But if it's a loan, if it's a guaranteed loan, again, all you're doing is taking that debt and piling it
Yep.
into the new year.
Okay, so guys, recommendation, do not take a loan for this season,
Yeah.
please. What about if someone asks you to stand as a surety for a loan that they are taking? What's your
Well,
recommendation then?
generally, that is never a good idea. When they require an individual to have a surety, the bank is saying, "I know that they can't afford to pay it." So generally, when they cannot afford to pay it, when it happens, they don't even go to them. They come to you because they say, "We knew they couldn't afford it in the first place, so therefore they're coming to you." So if you're in a position to give that money to somebody, then do it. If you're in a position to loan it and you feel pretty secure that they will give it back, then do that. But generally, I don't recommend, sign in as a co-signer, for somebody, especially if you're in a position that you can't afford it. Because generally, the reason they need it is because they can't afford it and they're probably going to default and it's going to come back to you.
And especially if it's your friend.
It
Because
creates all kinds of problems. I've heard too many horror stories about that over the years. Value the friendship. Don't do it.
my philosophy is that if I can give it to you, or if I don't need it,
Yes.
then I'll lend it to you.
Yes.
But I'm not going to lend it to you if I expect to get it back. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
that otherwise we're going to destroy our friendship.
Exactly. It's not worth it.
All right. Now, let's go forward to Christmas. And in Christmas, there is a lot of gifts that people buy. And sometimes some people buy cars as gifts and houses as gifts and all kind of big ticket items
Mhm.
as gifts. Is that a good strategy, even if you can afford it?
Well, I think for each person, it's going to be, everybody has to make that decision. So, everybody's financial threshold is going to be different. So, I think what you want to do is you want to go into the holidays and you want to have a spending limit of what you're going to
Mhm.
spend on gifts. So, for some people, that spending limit might involve all my shopping is being done at the Dollar Tree. For some
Mhm.
people, that spending limit could be, keys to a new.
CarMax.
Yeah, it could be that. So, it's going to be different, but you determine that before you go out. Look at, again, it comes back to planning, looking at that budget, and then, determine that spending limit. I think that the reason why a lot of people get in trouble is because they just kind of go out and they go kind of mosey around in the store and they kind of, oh, that looks good. I'll get that for them. If you kind of have a preset limit, okay, so my limit per person is going to be $100, then when that $100 is gone, the gifting is gone. But it takes a
Mm.
certain discipline to know that. The problem is people just start kind of picking stuff up, and suddenly, in January, you realize, wait, I spent, $300 on every individual, and suddenly, I've got all this debt, and half the stuff they're returning to the store anyway. Yeah.
You just said something that is really interesting, which is something that is well something we do, window shopping.
Yes.
So are you saying we shouldn't do window shopping, or if we are disciplined enough not to buy what window shop is a good idea, but don't window shop, right?
Oh, you can window shop. You can window shop. Just go out with your preset limit. So don't window shop with an unlimited budget, right? So know what it is that if you're going out and you've got $500 in your budget that's going to get you all your gifts, you can window shop. You can look around. The thing that, like I said, the difference is that impulse buys. It's the ones that you don't have a preset limit and you just kind of see it pop up on the home shopping network, or you just happen to be in the store and you're like, that looks good, I'm going to get that, and it doesn't fit into your budget in any way, shape, or form. So it's extra, And so, you might have already finished your shopping for that person, but it's now extra, or you buy that and then you go buy something else. If you know what your limit is, it helps to control those impulse buys.
I know that some of us have weaknesses. I know my weakness is going into Menards. If
Mm,
I go into Menards, I'm going to come back with something that I never thought of getting, but it just looked good.
yeah. And you
How,
should be allowed to do that. That's why you have to have a limit going into Menards. So you create a Menards budget on your spreadsheet, right? You're like, I need to be able to have some
I don't
flexibility.
want a budget to go in Menards. I just want to go and shop. I don't like how our budget feels. That's the
Yes,
problem. We don't
yes,
like how budgets feel. But
yes.
how do we force ourselves to conform to a budget?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a discipline, and it's a discipline that we just have to adapt, because I think what for a lot of people, they feel like it takes away that spontaneity, right? I want to be able
Mhm.
to go into Menards, but you'll find that when you do that, you buy a lot of things that you don't even really want or that you don't need. And so if you can get into the discipline of not only, and this is good not just for ourselves, it's a great discipline to sit down as a family to show your kids from a young age, right? A lot of times kids get wish lists. You can give kids a limit on their wish list, right? The star is not the sky is not the limit for them as they're, so you teach that principle from a young age. And so they're whole part of the process. And so they understand, okay, so, on our wish list, this is the maximum. So it helps them to
Mhm.
know that their parents don't have to go out and get the sky is the limit for them.
We have been talking about a budget from the very start of our discussion. Now, what are the major elements that must be included in your budget?
Okay, so we're specifically talking about the holiday budget, right? Because we're not
Mhm.
talking about, so everybody has their you should have a regular budget for your bills, right? Which is going to be all your housing, your
Fixed
food.
costs.
Yeah, we're not talking about those things. So your holiday budget is a little bit different. This is the one that we're creating just for the holidays. And so you want to make sure that you have a limit on there for what you're going to spend for gifts. You want to make sure, if some people like experiences. So if you're going to be traveling somewhere, or you're going to go, spend a couple nights at, a hotel somewhere, or you guys are going to, as a family, go enjoy an activity, make sure that you budget for that. If you're going to be putting up, decorations, or you're going to buy new things for your tree, or, new things for the house to decorate it, make sure that you put that on the budget. So everything, if you're going to, if you like to eat out, around the holidays quite a bit, or the holiday meal, make sure you put that on the budget. So all these things are going into your Christmas budget. A lot of times people might say, "Oh, I'll create a budget for my gifts." And so you do, but then you go out and you have, your Thanksgiving meal, your Christmas meal, you're buying the turkeys, the hams, you haven't budgeted for that. So you're still pulling away from your regular household income if you haven't planned for those things.
One of the things I want to recommend, though, is that we need to have an accountability partner for our budgets, because without accountability, you tend to use a budget as a suggestion rather than a rule. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
so your budget should be a rule of operation that you have set up, not a
Yeah.
suggestion, and then you can have somebody oversee you with that budget, would it be your spouse, so you don't have secret expenditures,
Mhm. Yep. That's
because
a good thing.
that's a big problem. Granted, you want to buy a secret gift, but it shouldn't be a secret cost.
Right.
It should,
Yeah.
the gift might be a secret, but the cost for it should not be over the level that you can afford.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be going and buying a Louis Vuitton purse when I cannot afford a Dollar General store shop
Yeah.
bag.
Yes, yes. And I think that's why I said that's a good way that you put it. You can have a secret gift, but it shouldn't be a secret cost. That's why this budget should be done as a family, right? So it should be
Mhm.
spouses, it should be the kids. You should sit down and, maybe before Thanksgiving is a good time, or maybe October, whenever you sit down and you create that family plan together so that everybody's on the same page, and it's not one person trying to corral everybody, back into one, area. And so that is, a good suggestion.
I like that point you just made. If one person tends to be the dominant controller of this budget, it becomes a very contentious experience rather than a shared family thing.
Yes.
So you should make sure everybody buys into this process rather than being domineering on
Yeah.
this process, right?
And I think it helps if people understand why. If you just go and you say, hey, listen, we got $500 to spend on Christmas, and people don't understand, then they kind of revolt. No, we've got more than $500. I've seen the checking account. There's more than $500 in there. But if you sit down and you plan and you say, hey, listen, this is how much our monthly bills are, this is how much income we've got coming in, this is what's left over. And if it doesn't, that means, next month, we got to cut into the food budget, or next month we got to cut into the utility budget, or whatever it is. If people understand, then they're more willing to follow it, rather than if it's just been a demand that's kind of placed on them.
Yes. I want to suggest one other thing, though, is that your budget must have something fun in it.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
it doesn't have anything fun in it, it's very hard to get buy-in from everybody.
Yes. So again, differentiating between a normal budget, because that's different. You should have a normal budget for your monthly expenses. What I was referring to, along the way, is more of your Christmas budget. So your Christmas budget, what are you going to spend on your holiday expenses? But yes, so a regular budget should have portions, for your living expenses. It should have portions for your tithe or charitable giving, if that is what you do. It should have portions for savings. It should have portions, I always call it, think about your future self, your gift to your future self when you plan for retirement. So that should be part, of your gifting. You should be building up that emergency funds that we talked about, but you should also have some fun money in there. And each person should have, a section that, that's yours. You can do whatever. So if that's your money to get your nails done, or if that's your money to go golfing, you choose what you want to do it, but a certain segment of the budget is your fun money.
Okay. Well, Annette, it's really fun talking with you. And we're going to have another discussion about the general budget in the new year as to what we do to create a general budget. And I hope that you really have a wonderful Thanksgiving yourself tomorrow.
Thank
And,
you.
and,
I plan to, and I hope that you do as well.
you didn't invite me, so I don't
Please
know
come
what's
on
going
over.
on here.
Come on over.
No, you invite me. It's just
You're
afterthought.
always welcome. You're always welcome. But remember, you got to bring a dish.
But I don't like to cook. So, anyway, Annette, thanks very much for being here with us on the Natural Vibes. And it's been a pleasure. And thanks for the valuable discussion that we had.
It's been my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And have a great night. Bless you, sister.
You as well. Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank Anne for being our special guest tonight. That was really interesting. A lot of valuable information that was posted. This will be posted on Facebook and YouTube, so you may be able to access the lessons or the tips that were given by Anne on this exercise. Anne is from Barbados, and it's nice to have people from the Caribbean doing such wonderful work and such wonderful things here. Again, thank you, Annette, and I really appreciated your time and your diligence giving us all this free advice that people have to pay for. So, thank you for being here with us. Now, I just want to say, guys, that please be careful of the use of your credit cards. They can destroy you.